All right, welcome back once again. Here we are with a brief panel discussion here at the end. I think people still have a lot of questions, and it'll be great to hear, now that we've heard everyone, to hear a little feedback on what the differences are and questions for one another. So first of all, I want to introduce Jose Diaz, who is the director of our Academic Technologies and Online Learning, otherwise known as A2L. And the applause, if you don't know, is because he saved our lives during the transition to Brightspace a couple of years ago. It was the only thing that's ever happened on this campus that I never heard a single complaint about. And just full of energy, doing all sorts of other great things, jumped into the whole AI dilemma and helping us survive that too. So we will hear a few complaints, but so I won't do a long introduction, but Jose is going to introduce the rest of the panel. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Shelley. Thank you so much for the introduction. And good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for sticking to the end. We're going to end with a bang. We have an amazing group here. I want to introduce everyone real quick. So introduce Sean, who is our new Director of Continuing Education and Workforce Development here at City Tech. Then we have Michael Donnie, who is an Associate Professor, Director of Interprofessional Practice and Education, University of Buffalo, SUNY. And then we have Data Pereira, Assistant Vice President, Information Technology Division at Lehman College, CUNY. And our new doctor, yay! She just got defended her dissertation, so I'm so proud of.
On Monday.
On Monday, wow. So she's still She's still recovering, and she came all the way here. So Alexandra Pickett, Director of Online Teaching and SUNY Online. When I was at SUNY, I always reached out to Alexandra. She's the reason why we have the Oscar rubric. So do not leave this, at the end of this without asking her something about the Oscar rubric, because I think she's amazing. And then at the end we have Shayla Pruitt, Director of First Year Experience and Mentoring, York College, CUNY. And going back with Joshua, he had you guys stand up and do some exercise. I don't know if you guys want to do jumping jacks or not. But we'll skip the jumping jacks. One thing I do want to do is I want you to nudge your neighbor and ask your neighbor, what can we do with digital badges back in your institution, wherever that is where you're from? And we'll give it about a minute, and then after that, I just want to hear from the audience, because I think hearing from the audience will then help our panelists just kind of go in that direction, I guess. So maybe nudge your neighbor, the next door neighbor, and ask them, what are you going to do with digital badges after you leave this conference? And just talk amongst yourselves, and then we'll come back to the panels in 1 minute. And you guys too, feel free to both. Yeah, you guys talk to each other and see.
How are you making digital badges?
So we have already pretty advanced with digital badges. We have issued about 54,000.
Wow.
We have 60 different badges going from things linked to the digital degree, to specific programs and cohorts. So we are now moving.
All right, so let's bring it back in now, back to the conversation. Yeah. I hope that you guys, these connections that you guys made now, you can continue the conversation after the panel. But I do want to ask, anyone want to say something that you learned about your neighbor? Anyone wants to talk about what you learned about your neighbor? Real quick.
I've learned Data's institution has issued about 60,000 digital badges, so I thought that was pretty impressive.
Thank you.
That's very nice.
Yes, so we have created so far, we started off with a pilot in 2017, and as of today, we have 60 different badges. We have issued approximately 60,000 with acceptance rate of 57%. Out of those 57%, 78% share them in different social media, being number one, LinkedIn.
All right, so let's open up with the first question. How did your institution or organization get started with digital badges or micro-credentials? And we can start with Sean and take it down the line.
Yeah, sure. As noted, I am new here. I'm less. The word 100 days keeps getting thrown around lately in the news. I'm a little under my first 100 days here at City Tech. I met Shelly and Jose at I don't know, academic affairs or something, my first week. And someone said, you should talk. And so CE is historically issued paper credentials, right? Because students don't get a transcript necessarily when they take a continuing ed class. But there is a need to demonstrate what they've done in the class and bring that to an employer, whether it results in a pay raise or them showing competencies that they can get, employment advancement. The digital one is a way to do what we're doing better. It's a way to scale it up. It's I like the metadata aspect, so we have learning outcomes that are embedded. Our assessment criteria is embedded in that. The seat time, so our locksmith class is not a micro-credential, I call it a macro. That's 70 hours. If that was a credit class, that would be 5 1/4 credits at 800 minutes per credit hour, right? So they're substantial, and I want to show the rigor and the work that the students put in. So this is a way to do what we're doing in 21st century.
Hi, everyone. So our micro-credential program is part of our professional training for health and social care students. We have 15 programs from medicine, dental, nursing, speech-language pathology, so on and so forth. And Ann Reed was part of this, putting this together at UB. But our program, our micro-credentialing is based on making sure that these health professionals, one, meet accreditation standards. So some of you may have to deal with that, and the badges ensure that because it's a parallel curriculum, which is a little complicated, but we've integrated the badge program into their normal curriculum. So we're kind of tricking the professional students because they don't like to do extra, right? Mm-hmm. So they take a course, then they show up for this event, and it's part of the course, and they're graded. And I'd say it's been really successful. We were just talking about it. For the first 2 badges, we have 3, where you can get the full micro-credential, because those are required. But the 3rd badge that we're really interested in is a health practice badge, where it's the co-curricular. It gets them out of the classroom, and we have like 10 to 20% of all those students completing that. So I want part of coming here too is getting some great ideas about motivating the students, and maybe this will come up with the panel. We've been working on incentivizing them, so even a small stipend from an organization that wants to partner, let's say a free clinic that has a grant, they give students $100. Often that's like the tipping point, which is really interesting. Childcare, travel allowance, that kind of thing. So I've got a lot of good ideas from being here today, so thank you. But it's a little more unique perhaps because it's health professions, but it's been really, really a good program.
Definitely.
That's amazing. So Aliman micro-credentials started all the way at cabinet, all the VPs, president, provost. We're trying to address a few of the following challenges. Student engagement, how to capture things that cannot be on the transcript or the diploma that can meet at the space where the students are. Students nowadays are all about social media, right? So they wanted to have something portable that looks nice, the way that they see these icons and emojis on social media, something that has at the same time the credentials behind through the technology. In the case of digital badges, it has a technology behind called OBI, Open Badge Infrastructure, which can be verified by any employer out there. At the same time, they wanted to connect. They wanted to fill the gap between what the students were getting on campus. There was so much happening, still so much happening, different internships, programs, workshops, research. There was so much. So they wanted to provide the students a way to communicate out there to potential employers what comes with the students that is not on the transcript or in the diploma. So the pilot started off with one that was we already knew what the competencies are: honors, dean's list, presidential scholars, those 3. And the others were developed because students were asking for them. So we got students coming to the help desk saying, hey, how come I have not received a badge for XYZ program or internship that I'm doing for this program? Or I'm going to have an interview soon for an internship. Can you please issue my dean's list because I know I earned it already? So we started developing, and the newer programs that were being created at Lehman sort of had digital badges embedded in the program. So we are now issuing badges for students who participate in the VR program, virtual reality, different internships in computer science here and there, soft skills, projects that they do outside of the classroom with video games and you name it. So a big variety and still growing.
That's amazing.
Context is everything. And I got my first badge in 2014 from EDUCAUSE as a speaker. So Jose, I need a speaker badge, please. I love me some badges because they're mutually beneficial, right? It represents my professional expertise and recognition of that, but it also showcases you and your event. And so putting it on LinkedIn gets visibility for both of us and is powerful and valuable in that way. So I'm really hoping for us. I know Anne would like one. So first, in 2014, I got the EDUCAUSE badge, and I'm a collector. I collect stuff. I love collecting things, and I immediately thought, this is super cool. And so that year, in 2014, I brought Credly to SUNY. I work at the system level with all 64 SUNY institutions, and I'm a little bit different in that, and I think that might be why you all invited me to come here, because I don't deal with academic micro-credentials. I work with faculty, and I work with instructional designers and staff, and have created a very rich community of practice at SUNY across all 64 institutions in the area of online teaching and learning. And so in 2014, we had a new chancellor, and we were rebranding. Every time we get a new chancellor, they rebrand us. So we were coming from the SUNY Learning Network to Open SUNY. And I had this large, rich community of practice that really focused on faculty and instructional designers at the time. And I wanted to expand it to include others who deal with online teaching at the campuses. So that might be people who had not yet gotten into online teaching and learning. It might have been help desk people. It might have been student supports people. It might have been, registrars or directors of online learning, those kinds of things. And so to expand it, I envisioned roles where people could see the role and then know who's in the community of practice to allow us to address communications properly based on role, to allow us to help us as well as the community of practice itself network and collaborate. And so it was all really about creating an ecosystem that was not entirely focused on, well, the other piece of that, in addition to membership and collaboration and all that stuff, was competency development or professional development, which is historically and traditionally what badges are. They're kind of like souped up paper certificates, right? But I envisioned this ecosystem that involved more than that. I was trying to incentivize behaviors within my community of practice, and so envisioned the badging system as a way that to be able to do that effectively, visually and visibly, that could persist in a digital format and be shared and add to someone's CV or add to someone's LinkedIn profile. And so that's how I got started.
Thank you.
My department is fairly new at York. I'm the first year experience director there. I started in fall 2022, and around I made the rounds asking my colleagues in different areas as I was getting to know the college, what did they wish that our first year students would do that they're not doing? And I took copious notes on that. I said, okay, And so then I was planning new student orientation, what the fall and spring semester would look like. And we had a bumpy few semesters because I'm what I call a voluntary department. Students are not mandated to work with us. It's a choice. And we're dealing with a lot of first-generation students, a lot of more seasoned students who don't necessarily know what is available and may not have the time to engage in everything that we want them to engage. And so the badge kind of hones everything together for us. We implemented the badge last year. We had one badge with 5 student completers, and then this year we were offered 3 badges, and we have hit the 40 mark. So I think it's working. So very excited on that. But our goal is to acclimate the students so that they understand what's available to them, and we're trying to pivot the culture a little bit. We want to make sure that they understand that even though getting a bachelor's degree is a huge accomplishment, it's not in game. You still have to not do the minimum. You still have to move forward because now you're going to go into a competitive market. And if you're aiming to work with humans, you have to make sure that you have something that distinguishes you. So the digital badge at York for first-year students allows them to get into the habit of taking extra steps they don't necessarily have to do, but that will give them options. It also introduces them to things like, we're post-COVID, and you just do a Google search of what's bothering students or what's a challenge, and mental health issues at the top of the list. So as part of our badge, we have, you must go to a counseling center program, right? So not the type of one-on-one counseling, but a program, in hopes that we can kind of destigmatize and take out some of the intimidation with the counseling center, right? You have to go to a Weeks of Welcome event, right? These are large-scale events. They are sponsored by a variety of departments. Choose one, and then that's also a badge criteria. We had students who, we have focus to career, but not a lot of students were engaging with that, so we added that. So with some of our badges, we were able to tackle the majority of the NACE competencies, which we're really, really proud of, and we're putting out the message where this is what you're doing in year 1. Imagine what you can do in year 2. So we're hoping that we can continue to build that momentum into our mentorship programs, and also keep going to a variety of things so that when they do graduate, they have a pretty substantial academic portfolio that will help them apply to scholarships, go on to master's programs, whatever it is that they choose to do.
That's great. A key word that I keep hearing from amongst the panelists, I hear students, I hear social media, I hear LinkedIn, the reach, network, and communication. From your perspective, how are you seeing microcredentials and digital badging allowing you to get that reach? And also you could talk a little bit about the student's perspective on this is social media, this is where they live, on their phones, they're on it. And it seems like we're kind of using this modality for communication, which is where they live. And I think, if you guys can talk a little bit, and in any order, it doesn't matter.
I'll jump in. We just created our badges, so we haven't. We're launching one probably next week, actually, and we're going to issue to some students that just completed. But so we'll be able to track that LinkedIn sharing until then. But this is a way to engage students in that conversation, to have engagement with those employment platforms, right? LinkedIn isn't about who you know, it's about who knows you. And they should be having those conversations now. It came up how many times today, right? I'm hopeful there's at least one good picture of me that I can put on LinkedIn. I gotta make sure which camera. But every time I'm on one of these, I'm like looking down or making a weird face. So we'll get a good one later. But it's important, right? And then the other thing is, Mike.
Sorry.
It's okay. The other thing is, because these badges have, again, that metadata, so you got learning outcomes in there, students are able to use the language of those skills and the competencies. Oh, what kind of class did you take? Oh, I took a XYZ class. What'd you do? Oh, we did writing. No, that's not true. You did critical thinking, you did research, you did all these. So they need, we often talk in this language, but we shouldn't expect that students know how to speak in these sort of taxonomies. So when it's there and it's transparent, it's visible to them. It's also visible to the employer, other education institutions, There's options for credit for prior learning and all that other sort of stuff. But yeah, these are the ways we need to be engaging, and that information should be transparent.
I like also that he mentions visual. I mean, those badges are visual. They speak for themselves, just like students and we dress. We're a walking narrative. So I love that the badges themselves tell the story of the experience. Michael, I think you were going to say something.
Well, just from a pedagogical point of view, I totally agree. We had a lot of professional students. It's an interprofessional program, so they're supposed to leave with a set of practices, a vocabulary, and then when we interviewed them, it was sort of the same thing. It was a little watered down, and doctors, dentists, nurses, pharmacists, it's competitive. They're trying to get into residencies, so it's a pathway of distinction for us as well. We stress it a lot, and I heard that come up here. And interestingly, I didn't, before I got into the micro-credential world, I didn't think students were doing that much on LinkedIn. I mean, myself, I wasn't. Now I'm on LinkedIn, of course. But medical students now, they post on LinkedIn. Residency directors scan LinkedIn. So even in the medical professional space, it's expanded where, stereotypically I was a little bit behind. I didn't think that was quite happening, but obviously in other social media platforms too, students are using that as well. But I think it's really important. The badges let you show the building of that competency too, and if they have the language, they have a better chance out there in the real world.
We've, throughout the development of some of the first badges that we created, we engaged the student government associations, so part of the language and the metadata of some of our badges is coming from the students. And it's what they understand, how they communicate, of course, within certain constraints. And we've received feedback from students, stating that conversations that they have had during interviews have been based on the digital badges, metadata description that they have posted on LinkedIn.
Can I say, that's a really good point. I'd like to hear more because employers don't usually want to talk about grades. They'll say, oh, you've got straight A's. That's great. What else can you talk about? So I just commend you on that point.
Thank you. So there is we use Credly Alignment with a flat rate. Because imagine 60,000 badges with the new pricing. So there's specific, so one of the areas that I manage in the IT department is databases, right? And I see all the data, especially the one for digital badges, because I am the co-lead for it. So there is a specific data point in Credly that tells you how many times a badge has been verified. And when a badge has been requested to be verified, means it is someone who's interested in the candidate, in the receiver, right? So there is data about how many times the earner has shared even in WhatsApp, in the feeds that we see everywhere. It's amazing what the data behind these digital badges show. So when we analyze this data, we come up with new language, new badges, new skills, new competencies, and alignment. And I comment, Ben, you sort of started with putting a team, a structure together, which is amazing. We don't have a committee. Well, I am the common person in every committee. So every division has a committee. It depends on the program. So determining the set of skills, they always bring representation from the career development department, student affairs. Students are also involved in most cases. So when a batch is developed, the response rate is really high because in faculty, in some cases, we have captured their perspective from different aspects. So it's great to see that how many external links land on these badges. They're not coming from any CUNY network. They're coming from out there. So they are being looked at by someone who's not a CUNY. No one from the 25 colleges. So that is something that it's really rewarding, knowing that what we do is being utilized out there.
So again, not student-facing. I work with faculty, instructional designers, and staff. we've estimated that since 1994, when I started at SUNY, I'm really old, I've trained about 7,000 online faculty, maybe 400 online instructional designers. I was actually the first online instructional designer at SUNY before there was a graphical interface to the internet. That's how old.
Wow.
So the question was about the context and the problem we were trying to solve. I had this big community of practice that I was trying to pull together, and in any community of practice, you have to give something.
Right.
You have to feel value, so you are able to give something and you're able to get something. That's what makes a good, strong community of practice. And so I was trying to grow my community of practice beyond faculty and instructional designers. And in the community of practice, we had everyone until today, even today, novices who have never done online teaching and learning, and masters who've been doing it for 30 years like I have, and everything in between. And so being able to understand who is within the community of practice by role, so there were role-based badges, as well as to incentivize behaviors to support that give and that take. So we have badges that support folks and encourage folks to, when they give something to the community or when they get something from the community. And then obviously also to recognize the expertise that people have in online teaching and learning, so in terms of their competencies or their professional development, and as that changes over time.
At my institution, my badge program's not going to work unless the students want it to work. That's bottom line for me. I deal with our definition of first-year student for my department is first semester, second semester, transfer, or freshman. So there had to be something designed that would cater to a variety of experiences. And what works with our badging is that they can get a total of 2 within their first year with us. And when they get one, they want the other. So that's my hook. We have one information literacy badge, which is, that really hit the ground running. And that's the badge that usually our students get first. And then after that, they say, okay, well, you said another one. And I'll say, check your email. We've been communicating with you since September. Check your email. So even a change in that, we now have a group of students who weren't looking at their email in fall, but now they're looking for spring. They're looking for the next opportunity, because we have said that if you do the digital badge, if you earn that, 1 or 2, doesn't matter, you earn 1, we're going to introduce you to additional opportunities. So our next process is to interview whoever the badging student, if they'd like to interview for a new student orientation position, then that's an opportunity for them to take their next step. When we get requests from higher administration that we need students on particular committees, we go after the badging students, right? We also start having conversations with them about what they want to do with their degree. I have a student who is a sociology major. She's a transfer student. She's in her 2nd semester. She's had prior majors. She doesn't know what she wants to do with sociology. She's not certain what she can do in sociology. So I said, okay, come back. Let me give this some thought. So she came back and I said, okay, your degree is basically a degree in like transitional skills. You need to be able to find out what you're interested in. So I'm able to arrange for her to meet with an executive at Johnson & Johnson who majored undergrad in sociology. So it allows for me to have, and my team, small team of 2, to have the conversations that we need to have, so that those students then tell their other students, well, this is what it is that this area does, and come on, take a walk with me. And I've gotten a lot of students that way. So I'm able to establish that rapport and take those students to the next steps. I have 3 students who are all badgers who want to be pediatric nurses. So we have faculty who would be willing to talk to those students and talk more about the career path. So it does lead to deeper conversations and more student engagement.
That's great. I want to come back to Michael. I think that's a really interesting what you said after Daira was mentioning employer language. It's interesting because as a student, they're just so focused on grades, and they go to the syllabus and straight to the grade breakdown and see what can I do to get that passing grade. But you mentioned employer language. The employer is not looking at that grade at that point if it's just a digital badge. So I wonder, do students see that more as like, oh, I can relax a little because I got a C here. But here, what we're talking about when we talk about digital badges, we're talking about mastering a skill, right? Can you guys talk a little bit more about that and how, your perspective on that?
I mean, from the health and social care students, the interprofessional movement came out of patient safety, reducing medical errors, and then improving outcomes through team-based care. So it's pretty direct, like what we want them to do. And we incorporate, and maybe some of you are familiar with it, it's a learning model. It's exposure, immersion, competency. And if we can get them to do that third badge, our feedback assessment, our data shows that they've picked up the language, they've worked with patients before they actually. It's a little lower stakes working with patients the way we set it up before they go out on a clerkship or a rotation. So I think it just strengthens, it reinforces what they're already doing. But especially in our program, if they get the third badge, they're working with patients before they're actually working with patients.
Right.
So that's kind of how we structure.
I think what you're saying is the criteria that are listed in the badge. They learn what those criteria mean. That language carries on over to the. Okay.
And I will say our proof letters are pretty complicated. I shouldn't say complicated, but they're technical. So like Team Steps training is a language they learn for team-based care in the hospital. It spells that out for and then the Credly links that, and that's really what the employers want to see from healthcare perspective, is that kind of credentialed proof that, oh, you learned this system.
Right.
So we're pretty good at that.
And how crucial is it to speak the language once you're in the workforce, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So one of the badges that we have with the highest rate is it's a collection. We have individual badges and we have collections where you have to go through different courses or earn different competencies before you get issued one. So there is one that was developed, a collection by the Career Development Center that includes, students are required to attend certain amount of hours of workshops, from interviewing techniques, building their actual resume is part of this program, preparing for the job force, the workforce, critical skills. So that's one of the most positive badges that we have. And the view rate from external sources is one of the highest. So we also have other badges that have critical thinking, very technical competencies and skills attached to the metadata. And what I've noticed with those is that, students and the problem with I didn't check my email. So we communicate, we issue the badges using the official campus email. And sometimes they're, at the end of about to graduate, they leave and then they come back and say, hey, I know the digital badge was sent to my student email. Can you please send it to my personal email because I need it for an interview for my LinkedIn or whichever. So that's my feedback about it.
So I've designed about 90 badges over the years. There's about 65 that are active right now. I've issued probably somewhere around 11,000 badges. And some of those, a subset of those, are around competency development. And I have a couple of examples. For example, a badge is only as good as the credibility of the issuer or the brand or standing of the issuer and the evidence that is required in order to, to earn the badge. So Jose mentioned Oscar, and I am Oscar's mom. I am very proud of Oscar. Oscar's our online course quality rubric, if you're not familiar with it. And I have a number of collections of badges around Oscar that stack into sort of Uber badges. So there's one that is related to faculty for self-assessment of their online course using the rubric. There's one that is to develop reviewers. So you could be a peer reviewer, or you could be an instructional designer who's a reviewer. And then there's one that is for trainers, people who want to train other people to use OSCAR and to do course reviews. And so, at the base level, you can learn how to use OSCAR through a webinar that we offer, but that doesn't mean you know how to do it, or that you will do it, or that you ever did it. So in order to earn that badge, you have to not only take the workshop, but you also have to go do a review or a number of reviews, and then you have to write a reflection piece, and then you have to give me the rubric that you filled out, and that becomes part of the evidence of that particular badge that anyone can go and look at to see and show that you actually have conducted a course review using OSCAR. They can see the work that you did, and then the reflection piece. And I guide that with a template model of what the evidence needs to look like.
So I just want to mention that I'm following your footsteps here at CUNY, because we took the OSCAR rubric for our online certification for faculty development. And we customize a little bit for City Tech, but then we award digital badges for faculty development. So, and a thanks to OSCAR rubric. But Shayla, you want to add to that?
Well, all of our items can be visited, I guess, by a student independently without necessarily being in the digital badge program. So we have a series of student success sessions, and it ranges. Some of them are facilitated by deans, some of them are facilitated by directors. It's really whoever is interested in participating. And every item that we have on the badge has its own assessment. So if a student attends Deep Dish with the Dean, we have our interim dean of our School of Arts and Sciences. He holds a session where it's about anime, and he uses anime and pizza, mostly anime, to discuss like social dynamics and conflict resolution. But he uses anime to do it, right? So there's communication right there, right? And problem solving and things of that nature. So at the end of that event, then we give a student satisfaction survey, and there's two primary questions that we're looking for answers. One is, do you think that this session, what you learned in this session, will help you academically, and do you think it will help you professionally? So we get the majority is yes on those. That same student may go to a session that's, so you want to be a nurse, and it talks about the nursing program and whether or not they really want to do that. Same assessment, but then the next day they may like, so you want to be a nurse? I don't want to be a nurse. I want to fly the planes. So we put them in the student success session that puts them in the simulator, right? And then they say, okay, this is what I want to do. Same assessment. So they're looking at what it is that we're asking, and then they are actively applying. So we enhance this by the individual conversations, because we do we communicate with our badgers a lot. The skills of checking your email and making sure that you show up on things on time and making sure that you're tracking what you're doing, all of those things we think are skills that are beneficial for the first-year student, and that it's kind of incorporated with the badge. We do sometimes, again, have to remind the student to make sure that they are kind of being mindful of what it is that they are learning, even though it might be more on the fun side of things.
I'll add to Alexandra. Yeah, digital credential or the traditional paper ones that we've been doing and continuing at historically, they're only as good as the work we're doing. So if employers deem that the folks that are coming to them with this certificate, paper or digital or otherwise, they don't have the skills to back them up, and the students recognize that, or they're not getting jobs or employment advancement from it, then it's not really worth anything. So the artifact is important, but the artifact is just a representation of the work we're doing. So I think, just want to echo that statement.
Yeah, that's great. And I just want to echo also Shayla, because again, I'm hearing communication again, and this is creating avenues for communication with students to even departments or even special groups within the university that is there for a resource for our students. So, sometimes students are afraid to communicate or reach out, but what I keep hearing is that this brings students back together through communication. I want to ask real quickly, what kinds of learning experiences inside or outside the classroom have worked best for issuing badges?
I can jump in. So with that criteria, the exposure, immersion, competency, so we do some online to start when we're introducing, and students do 2 semesters of online work. They use UB Learns, they do modules, and then we bring them together on Zoom for team-based, and that seemed to be enough for that kind of first stage of exposure. Then we do simulation. This is kind of in the healthcare space where we use standardized patients. They work on teams. We bring in partners from the community to facilitate. So I think that's kind of an interprofessional area. I won't get into getting faculty to facilitate, but sometimes we need 150 faculty to facilitate these events, which is kind of amazing. And then I think the most exciting one for me is what a lot of people do. This just happens to be out in the healthcare field, is partnering with areas of need. So Buffalo has like a really strong blood center for hemophilia and other blood disorders. So we partner with them, and they bring our students in. We partner with patients, but that's more the real world, and that's where we think we build a lot of competencies. But one thing I mentioned earlier was incentivizing, and I do think I came from Wisconsin last October, and we had a lot of partners that were interested in the badges, but they wanted to put their names on them. So they were like AHEC, like Area Health Education Center. They were really great. They would say, well, we'll give you an AHEC Scholars badge with your name on it, your university's name, if we get your students and they come and do what AHEC needed to do. In this case, it was more like public health work in the community, but it was such a win-win. And then they paid the students, which, incentivizing students, I already mentioned, was that was great. So I think you can get very creative with partners out there that want to be part of it too. I think it's good.
Yeah, I think we heard that earlier. I think it was Brian from Rutgers mentioned building those partnerships and also experiential learning, going back to Anne.
I already spoke, I think, sufficient about the academic achievement badges. So outside of the classroom, we have a similar badge collection for getting the students engaged during the first year, and getting to know the college, from counseling services, advisement, student activities, student government association. So there are a collection of badges that they earn as they participate, and they actually need to sign in to these different workshops. We have the Bloomberg Lab on campus, also a collaboration between the business school with Bloomberg Business. It's basically an internship. We have so many, I can't even remember. So there are many of them associated to internships with different competencies, from education to social work to computer science, you name them. So that's outside of the classroom.
So also outside of the classroom, I have had the opportunity to have interns over the years, and have developed an internship badge that then that intern is able to take with them and promote themselves, having worked with SUNY Online. I mean, every one of my interns works as an instructional designer now in the profession, and the badge kind of codifies their experiences, and they have to produce a body of work for the evidence. There's a video that they have to do, a blog post, as well as a self-reflection about their internship experience that travels with that badge. Inside the classroom, while I don't do anything really inside the classroom, there are a few new Oscar standards that are, I have to read it, it's based on UN Sustainable Development Goals, and they address intercultural communications, cultural awareness, collaboration, and teamwork. And these are for COIL faculty. This is Collaborative Online International learning is what COIL stands for, and it's really virtual exchange. And so the faculty who teach those COIL courses, and an American instructor with American students and a foreign instructor with their students, do a module, let's say online, and they work on those for standards. So that would be my example for inside.
I'm a big fan of COIL. I remember COIL being big in SUNY, and maybe that's something we can talk about here in CUNY. Shayla?
Everything in my badge is outside the classroom in hopes that the student will then do better inside the classroom.
Right.
So we have our information literacy badge where they're learning about databases and what the college has to offer as far as information and resources in that regard. So that again strengthens database knowledge, research skills. Again, we do it in very creative ways. So you have an option of doing a scavenger hunt where we send you around and we made the paper look like it's ancient and hidden certain things, and all of that.
Gamification,
so
right?
We really, yes. So they got to work in a team, and all of those types of things. But then we also have lecture formats as well, because we want the students to understand that there are different styles of the professor. You might get someone who's very animated, or you might get someone who's just
right.
Just straight talking. That's it. So to everything outside the classroom, so that again they'll just excel once they're in the academic realm.
Sure. I want to end with the last question, future thinking, right? After this whole session, we've been here for several hours. What's one change you think higher ed needs to make to truly embrace microcredentials as a tool for success?
In our area, patience. We went from 5 badges to 40. We've got thousands upon thousands of new students. So it's working,
Right.
But we're going to need more time to roll out. I do have to say that no one in my institution has been impatient with this initiative, but there has been more discussion about badging and the potentials for that. And we even though I was not born in the instant gratification phase of social media, but no one likes to wait. So to see the results, to see something work, and to see large numbers and get excited about the potential of that is always, I think, at the forefront of
Right.
an educator's mind. This could work. This could make an
Right.
impact. And so I think that patience is for these long-term initiatives is needed.
Thank you. Also, with patience comes those milestones, right? Along the way that builds towards that final, journey you completed. So I understand our students now is instant gratification. I need to get, but with badges, we can also train that process of getting to that end goal.
Students are about, many of them, video games, gamifying. So many of them see badges as, oh my God, let me get more.
Mm.
And because they're getting more, they're learning more. I don't think digital badges will go away. I think they should be embedded. There should be a transcript, a diploma, and a digital badge, all working together. They're a lifelong testament of not only the academic achievement, but also the competencies and skills that were attained throughout their career. So before CUNY, I've been in CUNY 15 years. I was working at IBM competing with Deloitte in many contracts. Where is Josh? And they were not called digital badges. I don't even think the name was close to, but at IBM, I was getting money as an incentive to get a digital something, a digital kind of certificate that didn't look like a certificate. And at some point, I came out of Lehman College, graduated working at IBM, and I needed to increment my skills, right? IBM is really demanding. Mm-hmm. And it was not about all the money that I was getting for each one of those trainings. Some of them were 6 weeks. It was about, wow, look at my profile at IBM, because we had an intranet with a profile with all the competencies. And in that corporate America, that one institution, we call it the bench. So you don't work for a particular department, you work for the entire IBM system. And what they do is, if they're gonna engage in a contract with CUNY, let's say, they go into that profile, database of profiles, and they do searches based on competencies. And I was always engaged in that contract. I was never on the bench. And I had coworkers who were on the bench for more than 6 months and they were laid off. I left IBM because I wanted to, but because of all those digital, whatever they call it at that time,
Wow.
credentials, which are still with me today, I was able to get into different contracts and come back to CUNY, not as a student, but as an employee, and be able to implement things that I wanted to implement when I had my own student experience. And one more thing that I want to say is, when I was a student at CUNY, I wish there was a digital credential. I was lucky enough that I had a professor in computer science who went and talked to someone at IBM and verbally presented the metadata about my skills, my competency, and I got an internship. Nowadays, we have students going to Google, Microsoft, anywhere. Deloitte has many of them. In fact, some of the individuals working in the CUNY contract have graduated from across CUNY. And now it's easier. Imagine back then, we have a lot of people who left CUNY and who knows where they are, right?
There's a lot of work that went unnoticed. Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't documented. Where was my digital badge?
So that's exactly what I was trying to do with the ecosystem that I've built at SUNY. I wanted to be able to recognize profiles kind of people so that people could look at each other and see, oh, this person has this or wants that. I have a mentorship badge of faculty who are willing to, experienced online faculty who are willing to mentor other faculty. I have people who are willing to review each other's courses, and I've created this system where you can go and look at who is who in the community of practice so that you can, in a self-serve kind of a way, reach out and network and collaborate with people. So for higher education, I think what I would love to see is that people be willing and open to look at what is it that we could create that would help people present themselves in a way that's digital to showcase the skills, the expertise, the activities that they have engaged in so that others can look at them. And now with the digital platforms, we have easy ways to share those, to as I said, before, document the evidence and to really showcase who the individuals are with all of their skills.
But what's interesting here too is that a lot of the work is sometimes the required work. But what we're looking at here is sometimes the work that, hey, I want to take that course, that extra. I'm being motivated to. I want to go and grab that digital badge because it's not part of in the curriculum, and I know that I need this skill to go ahead in the workforce. So I think it's also interesting because it does motivate that from the student to have to do something that's not being asked of you to do. And they're doing it because they understand the value that carries over into in the workforce. You want to jump in?
Sure. I'll throw some numbers out. Where's Josh at? He seemed to have some good energy. So there's a website, Credential Engine, which tries to track this, although it's probably quite difficult. According to that, 1.07 million credentials issued in the U.S.
Wow.
Less than half of those are issued by education institutions. So how many people have seen the Google IT certs and all this sort of stuff? ACE, the American Council on Education, is evaluating these and mapping those to college credit and aligning those with SLOs and credit recommendations, and so are some accrediting bodies as well. We need, particularly public higher ed, I'm a graduate of soon to be hopefully 4 public higher ed institutions. So I believe in the value of it, but we cannot sort of continue to offer, for the lack of a better word, through restrictions and sort of outdated thinking, we can't offer yesterday's solutions for tomorrow's problems. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we have the rigor, we have the policies and the procedures to vet our curriculum. There's no reason we can't impose those on these just because they're a different type of credential than we're kind of comfortable or used to.
Right, and also coming from from your perspective in continuing education, we heard Joshua earlier mention that a lot of the skills that are being taught in the 4-year, by the time they're out of the, they graduate, most of those skills are gone. So I could see why continuing education you want to bring back those students, you want to have them come back and just like get those skills that are now refreshers, right?
And we're not impeded by maybe a 2-year curriculum improvement process, right? So we have the flexibility to be a little more mobile, and then hopefully we can complement or supplement what's happening on the academic side of the house and bridge those gaps, right? Yeah.
It comes back to relationships, connections with your students. Once they leave, they come back, and you want them coming back because they're lifelong learners. Michael, you want to say?
I mean, boy, we're getting close here and we're over. Yeah, thank you. Just real quickly, kind of the future for me, the way I look at it is I see our badges as a really great form of workforce development, and that's where we're always looking for partners. I think the challenge for us is finding champions. Like, this is a room full of champions, which is great. And my faculty is awesome, but they're really stretched. And I think that's a challenge moving forward is when you want to take badges to the next level, I think, where's Brian? Brian, like, you're the team of one at Rutgers, right? I mean, that's a lot for people, and it's the same at Buffalo. We have a great team with Ann helping coordinate what we do, but we have one person in my office that manages 2,000 badges a year, and that's a lot. So finding champions, I think, will be a challenge, and just really managing external and internal partnerships. I think the workplace, it was kind of refreshing to have Josh here, kind of as an outsider, insider, seeing how it's really happening out there. So I think we just have to remind people that this is in demand by students and employers.
Yeah, I mean, it's out there. The people are seeing it. You're seeing it. You said Facebook, Google, AWS, IBM. I mean, they're doing it because we're not doing it. So someone has to do it. With that, I think we will close. I thank you all for staying. If you have any questions, before you leave, make sure you grab one of these people, because ask them all the questions and pick their brain, because it's always best to ask questions in face to face. Once they leave, who knows when you're going to see them again. So this is your opportunity. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. I wanted to ask you,
It's a pleasure to meet you.
I'm going to circle back with Ann, our guru. So
But I thank you, everybody, for staying this long. I think, well, at least for me, was a very rich experience and learning more about Microcredentials. I hope the City Tech community also explore more about this, Thank you, everybody, and maybe next year we'll see you again here, Yeah, thank you.